All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and thank you again for agreeing to do this interview. If you don't mind, for the camera, can you just state your name and rank again?
Yes, Matthew Rickard, fire technician, Prince George's County Fire and EMS Department.
Great, excellent. And how long have you been with the Prince George's County Fire Department?
15 years and currently on my 16th now.
Good, excellent. Good. So this week we have talked about and discussed crisis management, and for this week it was all about learning how to prevent crisis, to what to do kind of in the event of a crisis, and how to handle different crisis situations. So that was very important. I know that as a supervisor or a person in a leadership role, as a technician as a leadership role, crises are just inevitable, part of the job, and the ideal is to prevent the crisis from ever occurring, but once it occurs, really learning how to handle that crisis and that situation, whether it be internal or external, is very important. So in your time you've probably seen a lot of different incidents, been involved with some with the department and some involving the outer department. Is there any particular incident maybe that comes to mind that you think would be a great example of a significant kind of crisis or event? It can involve you personally, a call you've ran, a call you've been a part of. It can involve coworkers here in the department. But yeah, just want to hear an example, a good story about that.
I recall, I believe it was 2005. I think I had 2 years on the job. I know it was a holiday. I think it was Columbus Day. I know that because a lot of the fire department is off on holidays back then, so we had very limited staffing. We were called for an ambulance call at a place of business, and we had a female patient burned, and that's all that we were dispatched. That's all we knew. We left the firehouse, and it was just myself and my partner, just two of us, nobody else. We get on the scene within 5 minutes, and we're met by frantic civilians telling us, you gotta hurry, and we get into this place of business, and we have a female who literally had just been put out by her coworkers by a sink. She's still smoldering. The building's full of smoke. It's pure chaos. People crying and yelling and screaming, and she's in pain and she's on the ground screaming. And it's just something that nothing can prepare you for that when you walk in. You have to get the whole story, find out what happened. So of course our priority is her. The patient, however, at the time, it was an act of violence, domestic issue. So, she was worried about her child at that point, who was in school, and that there's going to be retaliation. So we had to get the police involved immediately. While we're trying to take care of her, while we're trying to take care of the civilians, keep them back, and while we're trying to call in extra help from us, a medic unit with extra people, get a helicopter going. It was probably one of the most chaotic scenes that I've been involved in ever, and that was only 2 years in the job at the time.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a lot to manage with only, especially with only 2 years involved. It seemed like a lot had to take place as far as you being, at the time, a relatively new fireman or new to the job, having to kind of take on like a supervisory role. I know you mentioned staffing was very limited during that era. Years ago. Can you talk a little bit maybe about how that impacted, like how was staffing back then on units and things like that back then?
Yeah, back then I'd say more than half the fire department was on day work, which meant they work Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, and they did not work holidays if they fell during a weekday. So normally we'd have 2 to 3 extra people coming with us for help. We didn't have that, so instead of 4 or 5 of us going out the door, there was 2.
Yeah.
So things have changed and things are better now, but that's the way it was 13 years ago.
And just to clarify, you were going out the door with 2, at a station that housed multiple pieces of apparatus. Is that correct?
Right.
So it's kind of whatever went out the door first.
Whatever
You
went
went
out
on.
the door first, and we were on the ambulance. We did have a medic unit at that station, but they were coming from another call further away, so they weren't with us right off the jump, and we had to wait for them to get there to provide advanced life support.
Yeah, good. So now we'll just kind of talk about a little bit about the breakdown, kind of dive a little deeper into the incident, just for a second. From your take and your reflection about that and managing that situation, that crisis, what are some things maybe you felt that went right? I know there's a lot of things that went wrong. That's why it was kind of a chaotic crisis situation for the department at the time. But what do you feel like maybe went correct in that situation?
I think the fact that we, got the correct, we stabilized her, we got the correct advanced life support unit there. The helicopter had been called already. We were in a large parking lot, so they were able to land the helicopter within a couple hundred feet of the building. So the transfer of care was quick. And as far as that all went with the teamwork aspect goes, it went very smoothly.
Good. And to follow up with that, kind of like, what do you see being important attributes that are kind of part of the job that really helped you mitigate that crisis and helps you mitigate just crisis in general? What kind of like traits do you feel like are really good in that kind of?
You have to be confident in your own ability, not cocky but confident. You have to say, I've been trained for this. I know what to do. Take a deep breath and just do it. Take control of the situation. Don't talk, rude to citizens or whatever, but you got to lay it straight. I need you to back up. I need you to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
You've got to tell people what to do, and you've got to be authoritative without, coming across like a jerk.
Yeah, kind of taking command of the scene, right? Controlling the scene, controlling everything, making sure your crew is safe, but at the same time, the patient is being taken care of. So, and then we'll just finish up really quickly. I know there's probably a nice long list, but what are some of the things that, I know you mentioned already a few of them, but things that kind of maybe went wrong in handling the crisis that could have maybe been handled better in this situation?
Well, the first, of course, was staffing, which was out of our control. So you can always call for more help, but you don't know where it's coming from and how long it's going to take them to get there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the dispatch information was limited, so didn't really fully know what we were walking into. Most of the time, 99% of the time, you get called to a burn victim that's not from a house fire. It would normally be maybe a scald, something very minor. You don't expect to walk into anywhere and see someone who looks like they were in a big fire who was not. So
Yeah.
just having to be prepared on the fly, stuff like that. I mean, a lot of the stuff is out of our control.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a good example of kind of like an incident or a crisis that is kind of like unpredictable. Like you can't really predict this as being a call going to happen, and like you can't really find a way to prevent it. So, but moving to kind of the next phase of things we kind of covered, like, do you feel like the information that was being relayed, as far as like from our department to the media, because I'm sure the media was all over the story, was done in the correct fashion?
Yeah, I think so. Our public information officer gets involved.
Good.
He has the authority to disseminate information after talking with the crews and the citizens around there, eyewitnesses. So I think the information was disseminated properly.
Good. All right, well, thank you for your time, Fire Technician Rickard, and I appreciate your interview, and thank you for the story.
You're welcome.